Welcome to another episode of Game Boy Roulette, where we take a look at randomly chosen games from the Game Boy library.
Donkey Kong Land. Hey, weren't we just here? It was only about a month and a half ago that Donkey Kong made his big debut on Game Boy Roulette in a game that he wasn't actually playable in, Donkey Kong Land 2. As we discussed extensively, the game was a demake of Donkey Kong Country 2, and now we're getting a chance to see how the demake train began with the first release in the Donkey Kong Land series. Also developed by Rare, Donkey Kong Land was released less than a year after the original Donkey Kong Country took the SNES by storm. The basic idea was simple: let's capitalize on the popularity of DKC as well as the popularity of the Game Boy by bringing the two together. It made sense, especially since one of DK's best games ever was on the Game Boy. And when I say the idea was to capitalize on popularity, I'm not kidding. That's literally the plot of the game. It's not often I delve into the manual of these games, but this one is worth talking about because the story is ridiculous. The story of the game, according to the first page of the manual, is literally that Cranky Kong thinks the only reason Donkey Kong Country sold well was because of its graphics, and challenges DK and Diddy Kong to have a new adventure with limited graphics and color. It's all meta and self-referential, and that makes me love this game before I've even played it. Anything that gets fourth wall breaking and ridiculous like that is totally my jam. It's probably why I love the Katamari Damacy game so much, come to think of it. The box art may be as vibrant and colorful as the original Donkey Kong Country box, but one thing I like is that you can very clearly see an art difference. There's a little less detail, a little less style. The colors are a little simpler. It tells you with just one glance that this is going to be a style downgrade, but just as fun. We saw the sequel, now let's see how it began. Restock your bananas for Donkey Kong Land. Nintendo presents a rare production. That could mean a couple things. Donkey Kong Land. I do not like front-facing Donkey Kong. This seems wrong and illegal, and I'd like to leave this screen immediately. Thank you. So I'm gonna guess this is gonna go almost identically to Donkey Kong Land 2. And I'm not opposed to that, because Donkey Kong Land 2 is great. Let's begin. Yep, pretty much just what I thought. So yeah, this is gonna be just what we saw last time. Which is to say, Donkey Kong Country, just different level design and layout, but with the same general graphics, just toned down. It's a demake. Although it's different level design again. Diddy. Oh, hi. Bye. Oh, that probably means, yep, there we go. For a second, I thought Diddy would follow behind me. Ooh, they nailed the music. The controls of the Donkey Kong Country games were, for lack of a better term, buttery smooth. Okay, bye. You constantly felt like you were in control. Right there, I was in control of hurling myself through a tiny, tiny gap. Ooh. Oh. Ow, snake! We probably need, something to get down there. I remember in Donkey Kong Country, there was stuff down there. Maybe I have to be heavier? Yes! Ooh. It's hard to overstate how incredible the music of the Donkey Kong Country and Donkey Kong Land games are. Alright, this time I got it. I'm a genius. Is that Brian the Donkey? Yes, that is Brian the Donkey. Oh, wait, no. I'm a fool. It's Ramdy's time. Where is this secret? I'm sure there's a secret around here, because if there's one thing the Donkey Kong games love, it's its secret areas, found by going to animals. What are you? Huh? What was that? I think that might just been a checkpoint. Stay here, I'm gonna go get Diddy. Diddy? Oh, do I already have Diddy? My rhino evaporated. That's one issue with this demake style. In the original Donkey Kong Country games, you could basically see your health bar by if Diddy or Dixie or Baby Kong were behind you. But here, they don't have an indicator. You just have to remember. And that's not a huge issue, but it's just one of the costs of being a demake, you know? Kong! One thing I should also point out, because I'm sure some people are going to mention this in the comments, this game was also optimized for the Super Game Boy. If you played on the Super Game Boy, you got different color palettes, and you got a cool Donkey Kong border. And And that's always cool. It's something to keep in mind, although, as I've said before, I like focusing specifically on what it's like, ow, my head, if you play it on the Game Boy. If it seems like I don't have much to talk about the actual game, it's because I don't. It kind of feels like this is the second time we've reviewed this game, because it pretty much is. It's very similar to Donkey Kong Land 2. Whoa. Ow. Another thing to bring up is that the smaller screen does make it a little harder to see enemies. Especially with the lack of color. Doesn't make the game bad by any means. What it does is, again, it's just the cost of a demake. Not all demakes go that well. I'd say the Donkey Kong Country... Whoops. I'd say the Donkey Kong Country to Donkey Kong Land demakes are some of the better ones, though. Darn. Has Diddy appeared in any, like... I know this is gonna sound weird, mainline Mario games? Come to think of it, Donkey Kong himself doesn't show up very much. What? There's an exclamation point. Give me a moment. I want to look up what that means. The flashing exclamation point means you've fully completed the level. Oh, so we found everything. Cool. But I didn't get the O. Oh, fully complete all the bonus areas. I see. I mean, I don't know what else to say other than if you like platformers, absolutely you want to get Donkey Kong Land. It's really good. It looks very nice, especially for the time and the limitations. They really put a lot of work into making the game look as good as it possibly could, given the Game Boy. Ow, snake. But as we also have talked about, there's always a bit of a price to pay for demakes. Some of them much worse than others. In this case, though, not nearly as bad. Oh, it's bad. Everything's terrible. You're gonna have to deal with some slightly more muddled graphics. Harder to see enemies. Just a couple of minor things like that, but overall, still really, really good. And like I said, it feels like we reviewed this game already, and it's the same stuff I had to say then, too. And the funny thing, at some point, we're gonna have to review this one more time. For extended analysis, please go a month and a half back in time to this episode. That's gonna be the tough part of reviewing Donkey Kong Land. Not that there was nothing to talk about or that it was bad, but it's so similar to a game we already reviewed, so all I can do is reiterate points that I made in the first review. That's a good thing though, because Donkey Kong Land 1 is just as fun, as impressive as its sequel. It still looks great, it still sounds great, and most importantly, it still perfectly transplants the gameplay and feel of the Donkey Kong Country games to the Game Boy. It's about as good as you can get for a demake, preserving what made the original so good, but also making adjustments so that it ran well on the limited hardware. Plus, like I said, building that into the story itself is something I'm a huge fan of. But there is an elephant that we're gonna have to discuss, the cost of a demake. No matter how good a demake is, and again, Donkey Kong Land is an exemplar of a demake, it still comes with some built-in problems. Taking something so vibrant and reducing it to so few colors makes the graphics look a bit muddled, especially when you're trying to tell enemies apart from backgrounds. The limited power of the Game Boy also meant you couldn't have both DK and Diddy on screen at once, which takes away one of the few visual representations of your health the game has. It doesn't ruin the game, it's still playable, and they made a few changes to compensate, but it's always something that's going to happen with demakes. By their very nature, you're going to get a version of the game that's by definition a downgraded version of an existing game. None of that takes away from the fact that Donkey Kong Land is a singularly great platformer, and I can still give it a recommendation, because despite the issues, this one is on the high end of how demakes are supposed to be. So that's 2 Donkey Kong Land games done, just one baby to go. And that's all for another episode of Game Boy Roulette. Make sure to like the video, comment, and subscribe to follow the series as we continue to dig through the Game Boy vault. I'm BrianJ, and I'll see you next time.